5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I should overcome, what for? Train in the trees, please walk my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands, and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Ain't no challenge for champions and chain no fear. Yeah, the champ is here. Swiss gears.
I wish that I could talk about fun things. That after all this time, I wish I could come back and just simply talk about that stuff. You know? Just have a great time. It's unfortunate that we have to talk about what we got to talk about. You know, but the thing is, we live in tumultuous times. You know, and there's a meme, that meme of the young girl. It's got to be at a Trump rally or something. She's got a MAGA hat. She's smiling. She's got kind of like a camo jacket and stuff. And there's this cop. Looks like a SWAT guy. He's just decked out in riot gear. And it always says, you know, me in 2016 over the little girl and me in 2020 with a riot gear guy. That's me. And it's unfortunate. I hate it. I lament it. You know, because I believe that it's okay to be radical about certain things. I think we should be radically in love with Jesus Christ, right? I think we should be radically in love with Our Lady and the church. Radically in love with our family. So I think there are certain things you can be radical about. But I've witnessed for months now. In fact, for years. It began, what did I say, man, 2015 maybe? When I really started to recognize this. And I knew this before, but I ventured out into the world of atheism for a number of years. In fact, you can find out more about that on my channel. As well as Meaning of Catholic with Timothy Flanders. He did a couple interviews with me where I go into the details of that, you know, but to see that, to be reawakened to the dangers of secularism, the dangers of atheism, the dangers of godlessness in this world, and what it does to people. You know, and I know people, I like Michael Savage, right? The talk show host. I like him. I've liked him for a long time. I don't agree with him on everything, but I like him. But I think, you know, when he says liberalism is a mental disorder, you know, I think that's maybe kind of true, but I think it's deeper than that. It's a spiritual disorder. It's a spiritual disease. It's the fruit of a spiritual disease, and that being sin, right? And I've watched it, and now we're in a day and age of licentiousness, just complete lawlessness, antinomianism to the extreme. And I've watched it. I've watched how it hurts people. And you can see this in snapshots, you know. Look at the snapshots of people. There's other memes, right? A lot of these ladies, some of them that will say 2013, and they look beautiful, well-dressed, their hair's taken care of. And then a current day picture, shaved head, long doolies on the side, green, tattoos on the face, looking junked out, looking hopped up on crazy drugs. And I'm not saying that as somebody who's like, that person looks like they're high. I'm like, I know you're high. You know, you got these people where they look clean cut. They look like they're modest in their apparel. And now they look like junk. Crazy Antifa weirdos. BLM weirdos. Sickos, perverts, degenerates, deviant lifestyles. It's all over them. It's gross. But I've seen it. And I've also seen the reverse of this. I've seen transformations of people who were completely in the gutter. Completely in the gutter. And all of a sudden, boom. God, man. Christ the King. Period. Bottom line. Radical transformation in their lives. Big time. But we live in a day and age right now of mass apostasy. It's a contagion. That's a pandemic. You want to talk about something that swept across the world. Sin. And the effects of it. The effects that it has on one's worldview. So I got to say, when I began seeing this, it wasn't like, a huge moment like right out of the gate. I didn't just sit there one day and go, yep, well, there it is. It took time. It took people in my life, proximity. It took good arguments. It took prayer for me and from me. It took me being broken, man. But I've watched ever since. And it's only gotten worse. And now it's in hyperdrive. It's almost like the mothership on Spaceballs. What was it, warp speed? And all of a sudden they're just like, going so fast, all the colors are changing. It's like, going through time and space and stuff. And then they stop and the guy just, dark helmet flies, blam, it's right up against the wall, crushes his helmet. It's kind of like what it is. But it had a big impact on me. And ever since that, I've been back in the church for, 2.5 years, almost 3 years now. And so, it's to this point where bit by bit, I've begun to, as I've embraced more, as I've put what I embrace into practice, as I've integrated my life and my family, the life of my home, into the church, I've seen a greater disparity than ever between the church and the world. It's always, it's a given on the one hand, right, that there's enmity between these things. It's there from the beginning. It's a prophecy with the serpent and the heel. It's eschatological. It runs through the entire covenant history. But to be part of it right now and to see the kind of onslaught, I remember there's phases of acceptance with this too. Seeing that, I remember saying that, well, it's been bad before. And it has been. There are times and places where someone could contend that it's been just as bad. They could contend that. I don't think they'd win. I don't think it would be compelling. Because I think right now, I would be hard pressed, in fact, to say what time period, what event, what series of events, what cycle was it in our history that was this right now? And not just in America. I'm not just, I don't have these horse blinders where it's like, I got friends that are super spooked, talking about, end times and stuff. And maybe I'm open. I'm a preterist, but I'm open. But a lot of it, if you ask them, it's all this kind of newspaper exegesis. What's in the paper? It's always America, America. What's happening here right now? This is global. This is global warfare for realsies. We're in the thick of it right now too, especially with all the chaos that's been going on. And look, and that's honestly, that's what we need to talk about. We need to talk about the chaos. It's multifaceted. I thought about this. I had a lot of time. To kind of plot this out. And number one, to admit, first and foremost, because I got a lot of friends that are going to be like, bro, you're getting more radical all the time. Right? You're involved with some groups that are, oh, wow, but it's true. It's true. You're advocating certain ideas, bro. Why aren't you like more, let's all get together and stuff? Why are you so militant, dude? Because you have to know what you're dealing with. One technique doesn't fit every situation. And if you got to know who you're dealing with, man. It's like if a police officer goes up to somebody who in their right wits says, hey, look, okay, I got pulled over. I'll go ahead. I did something wrong. They put their hands behind their back, get in the car, go through the whole rigmarole, go home. All right. Or you can be somebody like George Floyd, Fentanyl Floyd. And in a situation like that, you can't function the same way. Ask the police officers in England. Ask them what it's like when they can't carry guns and they got to deal with some crazy knife-wielding lunatic. Some Allahu Akbar terrorist crazy person on the street slicing people up. stabbing through the top of a car. Ask them. It's not a pumpkin pie bacon grandmother, man. And I don't think we're dealing right now with pumpkin pie bacon grandmothers. I think we're dealing with loon tunes, violent crazies. And even the people who would say, well, I'm not doing anything violent. I would dare to say that we've gotten to the point where, by and large, there's like two ways of people, particularly on the left, dealing with this. Either deny that it's there, or they just ignore it. So they can pull the stunt that says, like CNN, where they have the city on fire behind the anchor recently, right? And he's sitting there talking on the microphone. What you're seeing here, it's a fiery protest, but it's pretty peaceful. What? What? You are a liar. The person like Joe Biden, who just doesn't see anything, doesn't mention it. The whole DNC doesn't mention it. The caucuses did. Those were weird. If you saw Tucker, you saw some of that stuff. That was weirder than that dude in the flowy dress looking thing singing that song. That was weird. Might be one of the worst moments in television. Why, whoever did that's got to be fired. Like, stat. Maybe that was the pumpkin pie bacon grandma. I don't know. But just crazy. And they don't admit it. Or they change the definition of violence. They change the definition of due process. They change the definition of burden of proof. And we see this all the time. And even predating all of this nonsense. You see that with the Me Too movement. You see that with the whole listen and absorb nonsense. That's a cult. It's a cultic mindset. I don't know what else to call it. So you have people who either deny that it's happening, and they're like that dog. What is it? Everything's fine. This is okay. I don't know what the name of that dog is. Drinking the cup of coffee or whatever at the table, surrounded by fire. It's okay. You have those people. They're all around. You have the people like Biden and company, who up until what, today? Was it today? Because I thought it was supposed to be tomorrow. Somebody in the comments can let me know about that. Share a link in the comments. I thought it was supposed to be tomorrow, but I heard something that was like, he's coming against the violence and saying this is you can't do that. That's not the way to do it. And he sounded ridiculous, of course. I mean, the guy obviously has problems. On a different level than Hillary. Hillary was easier for me to make fun of about that, actually. Hawking up loogies into water, acting like she's drinking and stuff, and actually she's using that to spit out what looks like the yolk of an egg. People trying to bring her a lozenge. But at least she had that EpiPen doctor that was with her all the time. Biden doesn't really have that. So Biden doesn't really have the EpiPen doctor that we know of. I mean, maybe. But he's in a bind, if we're honest about it. He's in a bind. Because there is people, not all of them, but a lot of them are. I mean, look, even Antifa.com. Go to Antifa.com. Right now. Keep this tab open. Don't close this tab. Go to Antifa.com. And check that crap out right now. Tell me what you see. So he's not able to say anything, man. If he tells them, don't do that, number one, he's going to sound very unconvincing and definitely not compelling. Who's going to listen to that guy? Nobody honestly cares about that guy. And that's actually, to me, that's a little sad. Not because I like Joe Biden, but because there was something, I can find things about individuals that I don't really care for. And I can find things about them that I can find praiseworthy, or at least I can empathize with that and sympathize with them. And I could with him. Back in 2016, he went on Colbert. He was talking with Colbert, and he was choking up. He was talking about how his son died, and how people were really trying to get him to get into the election. And he was talking about his age, talking about his energy, everything else. And he was being honest. You know, with Hillary, it was just a brazen lust for power. With Biden, see, I don't buy it. So I mean, he's in a tough bind. So I can grant that. It's going to destroy him. It's going to destroy his campaign. Good luck. Good luck with that, brother. Yeah. Tell those Antifa people, stop being naughty. Tell Black Lives Matter, stop looting. Yeah. But see, that's the thing. You know, people saying, don't do that. Why are you doing that? Come on, buddy. Why don't you do peaceful protests and stuff like that? Because they're coming from a paradigm that does not prize peace. They're coming from a paradigm, a worldview that says violence is how this is done. And they've got such a convoluted view of violence. Silence is violence. Smashing windows is not violence. To businesses that are not yours. Oh, okay. That's neat. Damage to property. Bah, not violence. Triggering somebody. Violence. Boogeymen. The hierarchy. Violence. American history. Violence. It's all violence. It's all, you know, oh, look how convenient for them that all of the things that are violent are the things that they don't like. That's neat. But people in America, I mean, and this is, to be fair, most people in America, and I would lump Joe Biden and company in on this. I would. I'd say I don't think that they actually even know that much about Black Lives Matter. Some of them. I think they're in bubbles, man, kind of like the journalists. You know, I went to school for journalism. Okay, it's what I went to school for. But I've always hated fake news. I've loathed it my entire life, but especially in school. So I was never involved in it. But the thing is, these people only talk to each other. Okay, there have been studies on this that find out, like, how do they engage with people? And social media makes it easy. Makes it easy to do this because they can go ahead once they're at a certain level. They can go ahead and they can make it so that you can say, well, I only want to see blue check marks. I don't want to see the peons down there. I have nothing to learn from them. Why would I waste my time with them? That's the world they're in. Same thing with politicians, because it's the same world. They're part of the same social network. And by social network, I'm serious. Like, this is like their lives are in this bubble. Whether it's TV or whether it's spirit cooking dinners. Trips to Comet Ping Pong. I don't know. You know, you've got all these places. Bilderberg, Bohemian Grove. It's true. It's true. They hang out in the same saunas. Sickos, man. Even people you wouldn't think. Many of you wouldn't think. Yeah. I don't want to judge the audience here. Because there's a whole bunch of different places right now able to tune into this. I want to thank all of you right now for spending time with me. You know, but the thing is like, the things that these groups have in common, perversion and isolation from those on the outside. They're insulated, just like the walls at Bilderberg. They're insulated, guarded. Their only inputs are from their own peer group at the top of the hierarchy, which is also known as the bottom of the swamp. Okay. And so people may not fully understand what's going on with Black Lives Matter. You have a lot of people who support Black Lives Matter that may only think that it's just a matter of criminal justice. But if you really sat down with them and talked to them about criminal justice, they wouldn't know jack. They wouldn't know jack about this topic. In fact, they're so ignorant of this topic that on the final day of the RNC, when all the people are coming out, Rand Paul and his wife and their friends get completely surrounded by people. Say her name. Squealing at the top of their lungs, threatening them with violence. Say her name. Talking about Breonna Taylor. He made a bill with her name on it. He's the one. He's the one. He's the one who tried and is making the effort to stop no-knock warrants. That's where we are. I saw a video just recently. This guy was interviewing these activists, man, out there protesting and asking them, if you had to guess how many people, how many unarmed black men were killed in 2019, what would be your guess? All three of them were over 1,000. All three of them. You lose. You bet way over, okay? Not even close. In fact, I need to look this up. What are relative statistics to this, right? To the actual number. What was it? Was it 14? So I don't know. You're like 100 times over the number. But what does that do? If you think that there are, let's say, 1,400, 1,500 of them, maybe, just then it might be, well, I wonder, man, I don't know if I can sleep at night. I might be the next one. But if you say 14, that's like a baker's dozen, man. That's not to diminish the fact that some of those were bad or unnecessary, maybe even malicious. But give me a break, man. It's a game changer. At least it ought to be. Not now. Not now. You bring stuff up like this, doesn't matter. Number one, you're a racist. I've already on the first show. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I'm sorry, buddy. You know, I come out guns blazing, talking about Bilderberg. We're going to have like, you know how YouTube has those, in Facebook, they have those little infographics underneath that direct everybody to some kind of New World Order website. You're going to have like 20, man. You're going to have 20 of them. You're going to be like, for more information on COVID and Bilderberg and Bohemian Grove, they're just going to have like this long list. You won't even see comments, man. But they'll just move on. They'll blame you for being a racist. And worse, man, they'll call you a Nazi. They'll call you Hitler. And there goes my monetization. It's done. Toast. If you'd like to support me, make sure to go to PaleocratDiaries.com. You can do that. I have a Wix account. You can donate. I also have this thing, what is it? Cash App. A thing called Cash App. It would be, I'm going to have to make an infographic for that. It's going to be money symbol Paleocrat. I like the look of that. Because I'll tell you, if you want to talk about things that are essential for the moment that we live in, I believe this is like a Kairos moment. It's a moment, we've all been born for this. We've all been born for this time. And we all have different roles to play. But if you're going to do this, there's no playing around anymore. You have to lay it on the line. Say, this is the way it is, period. Bottom line. End of story, man. Hit him hard. Because I've played that playing footsie thing. You know, well, let's get together and encounter the other for some dialogue. Let's define ourselves by the fringes and the margins. No. Number one, did you get that out of Sun Tzu or something? out of the intro to Art of War. And I'm not joking about that, by the way. If you don't, if you don't realize just how much that language comes from a worldview, this immanentist worldview, that was prevalent during the time of Sun Tzu in his Art of War. You got to read the foreword to the book. I have it upstairs. I'll make sure to put that in the description on YouTube at Paleocrat. But the thing is, I've done that game. Let's talk. Let's reason. Let's use logic. But at this point, and I had to just bring this up. I put a infographic together for myself. I don't know if any of you guys saw this. The National Museum of African American History and Culture, the NMAAHC, they have a thing called Talking About Race. And tell me if you heard this. Unbelievable. But this is where we are. So if you say, well, let's reason together. Let's talk to each other as individuals. Well, sorry. Number one, these are aspects and assumptions of whiteness and white culture in the United States. And think about this. This is where we are right now. Think about this. Think of what this means for you. Think of what this means for your family. Think of what this means for your country. Think of what this means for trying to have conversation with people who maybe at one time were somewhat reasonable. Right here. It begins with this. This is cute. White dominant culture, or whiteness, refers to the ways white people and their traditions, attitudes, and ways of life have been normalized over time and are now considered standard practices in the United States. And what's the list? Let's see here. Rugged individualism. Independence and autonomy is highly valued and rewarded. Self-reliance. The individual is the primary unit. Yeah, okay, I got you. Family structure. Oh, okay. The nuclear family. Father, mother, 2.3 children is the ideal social unit. See, that's okay. That's an Americanism, right? That's a modern thing. Catholics need to start cranking out tons of babies. Americans need to make Western babies more and more and more. But the nuclear family, think about that. And that right there, the nuclear family, the attack on that. Go to the Black Lives Matter website. Look at their platform. I bet you most of the people who are protesting wouldn't even know what it is. They would just hear nuclear family. Well, how can you hug a family with nuclear arms? They wouldn't even get it. Children should have their own rooms and be independent. Maybe. Emphasis on scientific method. Think about this. And look, this is something that years ago, I got a buddy. He's the host of Dogma Debate. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's an atheist program called Dogma Debate. His name's David Smalley. He's a decent guy. I like him. He's a friend. I actually have a video. It's called When Satan Called My Cell Phone. And you got to actually watch it to understand the story behind it. But we debated years ago on his show about this topic. And he was asking questions, hey, why would you say there's an attack on whiteness, man? Like, why do you even use that terminology? Where do you get the idea that people are against the nuclear family? I haven't heard that. An emphasis on the scientific method. Objective, rational, linear thinking. Think about that. Cause and effect relationships. Yeah. Duh. Quantitative emphasis. So to what degree, right? How much of this compared to how much of that? Just let this sink in for a second. I'm not even kidding. Just think about it. Objective, rational, linear thinking. So objective, that there is this kind of world out there that we can all analyze, and it's kind of stable and predictable in a way, right? My car is not going to turn into a banana, or my keys. I'm not going to put my keys in and all of a sudden my keys are somehow magically an atom bomb. My wife is not going to morph into a Wolverine, right? As I'm hugging her. Like, that's just not, I mean, maybe she'll be mad, right? As angry as a Wolverine. Not at me. Never. You know, but the thing is like, we that's how you are able to say, I can go out to my car, and if I get in my car and drive down the road, I can, with a great degree of confidence, bet that if I go on the wrong side of the road and I'm going 70 miles per hour toward a semi truck and I don't turn, I'm going to meet my maker. I'm a dead man, toast, splat. That's how we know. Rational. Use your mind, man. Reality is outside your mind, but your mind is also a reality. It is part of this. We're not solipsis. Linear thinking. Linear thinking. What they mean, a vicious cycle, or vicious, you know, this vicious circle, circular thinking. I saw this recently. This is crazy. I saw this on Facebook. There's an old friend of mine. We don't really talk much anymore for many reasons, but she shared this post. What did she call them? Margins and Black Breastfeeding Month or something like that. And I looked in there like, what's a margin? M-A, capital M, lowercase a, capital G, lowercase E-N-S. Come to find out it's marginalized genders. And it was, the whole logic was, because we say so. That's all we need. We have the right to try. What? What? Let me. So somebody who identifies as a woman, and it was talking about abortion services. What? So a dude born as a man, I'd be like me, rolling up in there, yo, I want to breastfeed. I'm like, what? I have the right to try. Come on, man. This is crazy. And why? Because I said so. That's all it takes. Because I said. Cause and effect relationships. Why did this happen? People are looking for causes. And without quantitative emphasis, you're not going to be able to balance out what might have been a cause or not a cause. In fact, try to even use your mind at all without these things. Try. The mere fact that they made this graphic. I wish I could show it. I wish I could put it on the screen. The fact that they made this graphic. It's laid out. It's spaced out. You know, it's put in bullet points, man. History. The primacy of Western, Greco-Roman, and Judeo-Christian tradition. Yes. Yes, totally 100%. It is a country that the founders of this country, if people want to blame our founders for being imperial colonizers, you can't blame somebody for being a colonizer if at the same time you don't accept the fact that them colonizing it to one degree or another, whether or not you like it or not, means that it's theirs. Period. Full stop. No tolerance for deviation from single God concept. Haven't you seen coexist signs all over the place? People tolerate it. In fact, it's required by law. Right or wrong. I mean, people can debate that. The idea of respecting authority. Heavy value on ownership of goods, space, and property. Planning for the future. delayed gratification. Progress is always best. By definition, by definition, if it is in fact progress and not just simply change, it is in fact better. Tomorrow will be better. There again, whiteness is that? Maybe because they're planning for the future. Maybe because they're delaying gratification and they're trying to be rational. They follow rigid time schedules. And even stupid stuff. Coming after our food, man. Steak and potatoes. Bland is best? What? Women's beauty is based on blonde, thin Barbie? I wouldn't say that. I mean, ultimately, what they're upset about is objective standards of beauty. They don't like the idea that there is a kind of beauty that you can say, you can look at a aesthetically symmetrical woman and a man, a physique, and say that is preferable to the 800-pound person in a wheelchair. I mean, no offense. They might be a nice person. Okay, I'm not saying that fat people are bad people. I am saying, however, that there's a good reason why even the people that they say, well, look at the plus size model. Why isn't it the one in the stinking bed, man? I'm serious. Why isn't it the one in the bed? Why is it that Batman is never 650 pounds? Why? Bigotry, man. Whiteness. This is cuckoo. This is crazy. What's another one? Written tradition. Stuff like be polite. Just think again, and look, these things, so many of these things, to get back to the main point, so many of these things were stuff that I talked about on that Dogma Debate show with David Smalley. No clue. No clue at all. This was years ago. I talked about this stuff back in, 2006, 2007? On the radio? It doesn't take a prophet to see this, man. It is the consequence of ideas. It's the consequence of a worldview, a network of presuppositions. And if you start with those presuppositions, they'll flush themselves out. But here's the thing. It won't be coherent. It'll be a bungalow of contradictions. But he had no clue. And most people don't. So, I've decided, now that the first episode is coming to an end, I'm sorry it was flighty. I'm sorry it was just me kind of just unleashing on random stuff a little bit. But I walked away and I came back and literally the world's on fire. I knew it was coming. But man, that sucks. And in that amount of time, I became convinced that we can no longer sit around, and this might be controversial, so there might be people who disagree with me on this. And if you do, let me know. Let me know. Email me. PaleocratDiaries@gmail.com. Super simple. And know that I probably will not communicate very often on Twitter and Facebook. I'll let you know that, but I won't engage long form on there. But I got in a conversation with a buddy of mine. And I'm talking to a good friend. Like this isn't somebody who's a small fry. This is a real big deal. And we were talking about, what we think ought to be done in the current situation. How should we posture ourselves? What kind of attitude should we have in an era of this kind of craziness, this kind of violence, the rioting, the murdering, murder? How should we posture ourselves? You know, he took a position that I think is, on an individual level, is fundamental. And it was, we need to pray, check. We need to love, check. We need to partake in the sacraments and frequent the sacraments, check. And we need to do our best as a man, husband, father in our home and in our church, check. What next? What next? His emphasis was almost monastic, right? And I said, there's a role for that. But there's a time where people literally need to pick up swords. And those people who pick up swords, they have to pray. They have to remain good dads, better dads than ever. They have to remain better husbands than ever, more vigilant than ever. But what next? And I said, there's a number of things I think people should do. I said, because, you know, and he did bring up one. He said, you know, people could maybe start a blog or do what I'm doing here. And that's true. That's true. But even this is kind of like a megaphone on the top of a telephone pole. There will be people who gather around. Some people will walk past. Some will cheer. Some will boo. Some will throw money at the hat on the ground. I encourage you. Some will become friends. But that's not anything that actually activates anybody in a group. With a collective effort, a collective vision. And this is important. People ought to, and look, there will be individuals, if you read this book, there's a lot of it that you may not agree with. I don't agree with every single thing in the book, but I think it's one of the most important books on political economy and culture in modern times. And it's Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. It's essential reading for people who want to understand now. And to even begin to have ideas about what they can do now. And part of that would require finding not only what you're good at, but like-minded people who have similar interests, things that drive them and motivate them with a division of labor, diversity of talent, gifts and talents that people can build on together so that they're not alone. Because look, the enemy faults on that side to an extreme with this kind of crazy, rabid Marxist collectivism. It's their new religion. But they come in a group. Be that young man, that 17-year-old kid in Wisconsin. Be him. And he was in a group. But it wasn't as big as the others. Now, he defended himself. He should win this. He should win the trial. He should. But the enemy right now comes in major numbers. Look what they do to people. Look what they do to people when they go to these restaurants and they scream and they chant at people and yell at them. Look at it. Raise your fist. Say his name. Blah, blah, blah. As they're caving in around you. Or surrounding your car and not letting your car go through. Or they're flooding a local city commission. Or they're out there on the streets. And everyone thinks if I just stay home, it'll blow by. It's like an American thing, man. Super naive. Super naive, man. Last thing I say. The reason it's naive is for many of the same reasons that it was naive to not envision that the actions taken by, at the time, wouldn't have been the LGB community, and the kind of activism they did that overturned the classification in the DSM. Look it up. It was filled with fire and fury, anger, locked doors, intimidation, rage, and it went away. But something was changed, something so central and fundamental to order, that over time, that fleshed itself out. That it became a new ruling presupposition in a way. And that played itself out in time. That's what's happening now. And look, to be honest, it might be too late. I'm not going to lie to you. It might be. You know, so if you want your lemon drops and lollipops, your cotton candy on a stick, you want that, go for it. But I'm not going to go down without a fight. I have children. And more than that, I have a mandate. We have a great commission, and a Lord of Lords, and a Queen Mother on our side.
If I don't talk into microphones, I don't make that mad cash. Making all that money. Making that mad loot, right?
Mind control.
So we see the minority elite imposing their ideology on an unwilling and resentful populace. This causes a backlash. People get ticked off. The left is working long and hard to make us feel as if we've done something wrong. Don't let people just rip on your heritage. Don't let people just rip on your traditions. Don't let people rip on your heroes. Stand up for what you believe, what made you who you are. So unless this disenfranchised majority begins standing up for what they believe in their heart of hearts to be true, I think we'd be left with nothing more than a dirge, maybe a funeral procession.